Ah, yes, the community has found another card that's a problem after just one event. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button and welcome back to The Community Has Found Something Else to Complain About. Today, we're going to be looking at Spooky Dogwood and the applications that this card has on the problem, or on the format. Now, for those of you that might not know this, did you know that there is an application in this game called You Do Not? And that's great. You do not have to play underneath Spooky Dogwood. You do not have to play underneath Max C. Wait a minute. This just in. Max C is comparable to Spooky Dogwood. Wait a minute. Why is that? Well, instead of giving your opponent cards, you're giving your opponent life points. Well, what's the point in giving your opponent, 20,000 life points out here in order to basically, well, why are people even playing Spooky Dogwood? It's because of time rules. All right, I can't glorify this anymore to you. I do agree to a certain extent. And I know, I'm here to complain about the complaint. No, I'm here to talk about these sorts of things. And I look at Spooky Dogwood as a card. I think it was a fantastically designed card based on the premise of, hey, you activate this, your opponent either does not, or you get a crap ton of life points. Now, traditionally, several formats back, if you looked at Spooky Dogwood, 2 to 3 turns, people would be able to play through the life points that you were giving them off of the Spooky Dogwood. All right, but that was then, and this is now. And that's why, when I bring the comparison of this up, like Max C, it's because if you give your opponent too many life points in a format where, unfortunately, things are timed, and you start to, you're snowballing 20,000 life points. But the problem here is it was also the context in which this scenario came up. You're giving the deck in the room the OTK monster, all right? The big, scary deck that can decimate you for 16,000 damage like that. You gave them 20,000 life points. You're already playing down because any 2 monsters on their field they're going to get you. It's going to be like, oh, I'm going to get you. You just gave me 20,000 life points. Now I can take a turn and now I can get you. But you didn't see, that extra turn being needed out here. Also, the fact that Tenpai is able to do, the going second stuff. By the way, if you haven't seen Raigeki off of the weekend here, we'll talk more about card prices later this afternoon in terms of, things that are going on. But I heard cheers for Spooky Dog, or I heard people complaining about Spooky Dogwood. It's unfair. Card is cringe. Like, what'd you lose? But Raigeki gets activated and people lose their minds. So I feel like there's a disassociation out here of what the community deems correct. I would cheer for the Raigeki too, but I'd also cheer for the Spooky Dogwood because the Spooky Dogwood ensures that I'm not losing the game, and it forces, I guess, all of this comes down to the application that Spooky Dogwood is pushing itself into right now. We are in such a heavy setup format and such a, you have to go first, you have to build this board. The recovery options aren't really, they're there, but you can't build the same level of board again unless you're Tenpai, and then you kind of just sort of like, oh, hey, I can sync her up again anyway, so it doesn't matter. I only needed 2 cards out of my extra deck to OTK you, and I failed. So that's a cute little thing to kind of think about out here. But it's the application that these decks, like, yes, it does feel like we are in such a lopsided format because it is so dedicated to going first. But that's another thing I do want to plug in here. You really got the chance to see the board breaker side of things this weekend, which, this all kind of ties into why the community is looking at Spooky Dogwood and going, we need this card. is it worth it to ban Spooky Dogwood based on the fact that the card manipulates the life point side of the strategy and is just such a free win on time rolls? I don't know. But on that same equation, because you're gaining all these life points, board breakers were stupid. Actually seeing board breakers back, the Raigeki, Dark Hole was present. We can sit here and be like, no, it wasn't. But Droplet and Dark Ruler no more. You've got the whole squad is back right now. People are really thrusting on into the Dark Rulers right now, so you can push over whatever end field that your opponent is going for. And that's kind of what a lot of people were expecting with this format was, hand traps are still very good. Looking at you, Nibiru, all right. Nibiru, you were a really good card this week, and you really proved to people out here that you could do some incredibly stupid things. But I find it interesting that a card like Spooky Dogwood has taken all of this time to kind of lay the foundation for the structure of the format to be what it is. I know time rules existed way back when, but it hasn't been until like fairly the last year or so that people have been looking at Spooky Dogwood as, that option to bring in. And I partially want to think some of that to, being the fact that, decks are taking a lot more time to combo right now. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, they are. You got to factor in the slow playing side of the equation as well. I will acknowledge that some of the impressive boards that these decks are making do take time to do. I can't take that away from them. Even if you're playing at a good pace, you might only shave a minute off. And, sometimes if it's been 10, 11 rounds, you gotta network. As long as you're playing cards at an equal pace or an acceptable pace going through the combo, your opponent really can't be mad at you. All right, and that's another big thing to think about is, it's always played that appropriate pace, but that's where the Spooky Dogwood deletes that interaction and makes you kind of not happy to see it sticking around in the format. Honestly, I think the card should, if we are going to keep existing on the current time rules, and we are going to keep things around, I don't think for the luck sack factor of the game that you can really leave Spooky Dogwood in the course of the game. But you've also got to remember on that same thought though, like you have to board this card in a scenario that time is coming close. And you've got to make that consideration of, can I sideboard in time to pull this in? Because if you're sideboarding with like 2 minutes on the timer, you're probably not getting into that game. Like that's just the realistic side of things. But there's 5 minutes left on the timer. You can actually get in to that Spooky Dogwood and do things. It's a lot of judgment calls that you have to consider when, playing the game to get the most optimal results for it. Can't believe I'm justifying banning Spooky Dogwood. What am I on? I do want to ask the question to you, though. If we're going to keep current time rules and we're not going to fix anything, for the record, as much as we hate current end of match procedures, they do end the tournament, or they're supposed to end the tournament quicker. Remember, Konami does have to pay their judges some sort of money. All right? These are people that are choosing to work. There is a monetary compensation to them. So Konami wants to end games as quickly as possible. And I think cards like Spooky Dogwood do help to facilitate that push onto, that side of, the equation. But if you're going to keep things the way they are, you probably should ban the card. But more than likely, the reality of the situation is you're not going to see Spooky Dogwood get banned. This is going to have to be something that you're going to have to deal with kind of going forward. But hey, every time a U-Bell monster spots them, you gain exactly 0 life points. So that's a pretty big thing to think about out here. All right. I love +0. So, should Spooky Dogwood go? For the sake of the game, I can't believe this card is actually that nuts. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Goodbye. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.